pleased to be able to participate in this year's Saltire Society Housing Design Awards and to help celebrate the very best in Scottish housing design. Scottish ministers recognise the importance of these awards in helping to raise the bar for design quality year on year, both for individual houses and for the creation of distinctive places. In fact, I would like to underline that I greatly appreciate the emphasis on placemaking in these awards, recognising the important role that housing plays in developing and enhancing our sense of place, identity and community. Our continuing support for these awards is also an indication of the value that we place on the Saltire Society's work to promote the Scottish culture and to showcase the rich talent, heritage and creativity of our country. As we set out in our vision for the future of housing in Scotland, Housing to 2040, we face increasing demand for new homes, but that challenge is not simply to build houses in greater quantities, it's to deliver high quality, sustainable and well-designed houses and places that help to grow our communities and improve people's lives. The creation of successful places is one of the key drivers in the draft National Planning Framework 4, NPF 4, and our programme of planning reform. The draft NPF 4 sets out our commitment to livable places and 20-minute neighbourhoods. And this underpins commitments in the programme for government on developing resilient, healthy places that also help us to tackle the climate emergency and live well locally. NPF 4 was laid before Parliament on the 10th of November, and I would encourage you to respond to the consultation on the draft and contribute to the debate on how good planning and design can help to address some of the significant challenges of our time. I believe that good housing design is vital to the health of our nation, and through good design we can help to realise the potential in our communities in urban and rural areas and to create and sustain a vibrant and inclusive society. Our approach to improving housing quality and affordability is central to our efforts to reduce inequalities and, of course, to achieve our target to be net zero by 2045. As we all know from the recent COP26, reducing emissions and adapting our places to be resilient to climate change is a huge challenge. High quality design that harnesses our creative skills can help us to deliver places that not only meet our net zero ambition, but that endure as part of resilient communities with strong identities and high levels of social and cultural capital. The Saltire Society Housing Design Awards, the long-standing commitment to celebrate and showcase the best in Scotland's new housing, does a great deal to enrich the debate on the role and importance of housing in shaping a sustainable future. Scottish ministers want Scotland to be recognised as a dynamic, forward-looking place, renowned for its innovation and its creative prowess, and today's awards provide a fantastic example of that talent and creativity. I'd like to thank the Saltire Society and the awards panel, and all of whom generously gave up their time to visit and assess the shortlisted projects as part of the judging process. And I offer my warm congratulations to all those who receive an award or commendation today, and my thanks to everyone involved for the contribution that the awards make towards Scotland's culture and future prosperity. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ginny Atkinson, Guest Chair for the 2021 Saltire Society Housing Design Awards. These awards have at their heart an interest in raising the bar for the design quality of social and affordable housing and the importance of that to and for the people who live in these homes. The 2021 shortlisted and awarded projects have these principles at the fore. The credibility of these awards is grounded in the shared expertise of our judges. They volunteer their time and the Society is indebted to their contribution, particularly the 2021 judging panel convener, John Brennan, who has navigated a particularly challenging set of circumstances. This evening's announcement is somewhat different to previous years, but we wanted to ensure that the great work of Scotland's architects, contractors, and designers are rightly recognised and celebrated safely. We will now screen the 2021 Saltire Housing Design Awards shortlist film for you. My colleagues from the judging panel will then announce the commendations, awards, and the Chartered Institute of Building Good Building Award. I will then have the honour of announcing our final award of 2021, the Saltire Medal. Let's take a look at the 2021 Saltire Housing Design Awards shortlist.
evening, everyone. My name's John Brennan, and I'm convener for the Saltire Society Housing Design Awards. As Ginny and the Minister said, 2021 has been a very difficult year for the awards. The judging process has had to change and develop to ensure the safety of our judges, entrants, and homeowners and tenants, while continuing the vigour of our judging process. The quality of entries is quite clear from the shortlist, and we are pleased to be celebrating the best of housing design within Scotland. Our first commendation of the evening is Ostro Passive House, whose architects are Paper Igloo Limited. Ostro Passive House is an exemplar of careful design and sustainable performance. The Passive House is a standard uncompromising in its focus to throttle into insignificance heating demand in a building. It requires airtightness, careful orientation, and a compact volume that sometimes makes for a functional but uninspiring home. The Ostro Passive House assertively challenges such a stereotype. From the outside, it is a sharply honed enclosure clothed in diagonal timber cladding that speaks of sustained focus and craft in its design and construction. Inside, the building is less a collection of rooms, but more a series of beautifully made and scaled works of cabinetry to define its spaces. The work is often playful in its references to late 20th century design, but there are no lapses in concentration in delivering a building that performs to the highest of environmental standards.
So quite a while ago now, we decided that we wanted to build a house for ourselves. We decided we wanted to move to the countryside out of Glasgow's West End and do something new. And at that point, we discovered Passive House, and we decided that was the best way to build. So that's what we decided to do together. We chose the name Ostro because it means south on the compass. It's a historical word, not in use anymore, but we really liked the sound of it, and we thought that tuned in well with the Passive House idea of southern orientation for maximising solar gain. Our inspiration for the project really came from the Passive House principles. We were trying to keep the form as simple as possible and as compact as possible. So we were looking at kind of cuboids and so on. And then we decided we wanted to make the exterior of the building more dynamic and interesting, because obviously the square shape is quite sort of simple. So we decided to clad the building diagonally to give it some movement and life, and to really accentuate the texture of the wood and all the different colours that you get in untreated timber cladding. I'm absolutely delighted to receive a commendation at the Saltire Society Housing Design Awards. It's really been a wonderful end to a journey for us, which we invested so much time and love in, and yeah, it was a really nice culmination to all of that.
Our second commendation goes to the Beekeeper's House, whose architects are Zone Architects, and the contractor is Gibson and Hall. Beekeeper's House is all about being an exemplary neighbour in a small borders village. Roxburgh's church sits on a hill, and at its base, the beekeeper's plot sits on its slope hard to the road. It is a challenge met successfully, with a plan that shifts in direction to follow the street and joins with great care the informal pattern of its surrounding buildings. Home and garden are experienced together, a south-facing kitchen opening out effortlessly to an outside world that feels simultaneously sheltered and expansive. The massing and materials of Beekeeper's House are of its time, but reference local tradition. It is finished not in the stone vernacular, but in larch that, with a slate roof, will weather and sublimate into its built and natural surroundings. Inside is a revelation, with a central stair open to the living room, providing an unexpected spaciousness for a house of modest size. Throughout, a subtle colour palette and its celebration of timber as structure and cladding celebrate this home's rural situation.
It's a lovely, quiet, sunny situation overlooking the river. And I love it. It has delightful inside, and the design itself of the house, I think, is elegant and modern and gentle and full of organic qualities. So it's all come together really beautifully.
The one distinctive move that we've made with the design is that we put a kink in the middle to follow the curve of the lane that it sits on, and also so it aligns with neighbouring buildings. So that's a kind of one very sort of small little design trick that we've introduced, and the inspiration came from, you know, its surroundings really.
It is a great honour to be given this award by the Saltire Society, and a testimony to the generosity and great skill of those who designed and built the house, for which I have great appreciation.
Congratulations to both our commendees. I am delighted to welcome Gareth Williams to announce the Chartered Institute of Building's Good Building Award.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honoured this year to present the CIOB Good Building Award 2021. The CIOB are the world's largest and most influential professional body for construction management and leadership. By collaboration with organisations such as the Saltire Society, we ensure that the CIOB, our qualifications, standards and values continue to support best examples of practice within the industry. It really has been an outstanding year for entries, each one displaying qualities required to achieve the CIOB Good Building Award. However, as always, there can only be one winner, and this particular entry really stood out. The care, the attention to detail, and the collaboration with local contractors shine through in the quality, not only of the spaces created, but most noticeably in the craftsmanship displayed throughout the building. The intergenerational partnership and teamwork demonstrated throughout the project has resulted in a sustainable, efficient, exceptionally crafted building. So it gives me great pleasure to award the winner of the CIOB Good Building Award 2021 to the Beekeeper's House.
Well, I'm delighted that this house has won the CIOB award, because it was such a delight working with these Borders builders who, if you're sort of used to the sort of much more hard commercial world of central belt contracting, these guys were a delight. They really always went well beyond what was required of them, and were just lovely to work for, really keen to do a great job. It was so enthusiastic. The joiners in particular took to the idea of the cladding, which wasn't we gave them quite a challenge, quite a tricky detail, because the cladding had to be aligned all the way around the building all at once. And joiners just like to take bits of wood out of a packet and, you know, hammer it on a wall, and they couldn't do that here. So they went above and beyond, and it's really great that that's been recognised by the Saltire judges.
We now move to the Housing Awards for multiple housing.
Bell Street Stables, Architect, Collective Architecture, Client, Wheatley Group, Contractor, Wheatley Group, and CCG Scotland. Bell Street Stables is a building repurposed and transformed in the dense environs of Glasgow's Merchant City. Its conversion to 52 homes for mid-market rent is an exemplar for sensitive conservation and transformative repurposing. Its essential character is always retained, including preserving the unique access ramps for the horses. New work is confidently of our time, but the building reads as a consistent whole through careful material and colour choice. The development has an innate confidence to make its residents a real engine in its continuing transformation. Householders have taken ownership of its common space and are transforming its courtyard into a supportive and congenial heart of the development. Bell Street Stables is significant not just in its conservation, but it enriches the debate we should all have about living together in a social and sustainable way.
Bell Street Stables, it was a very interesting conversion project. It was a derelict building built for the cleansing department 125 years ago, and we converted it into mid-market rent flats. Quite a lot of interesting historical features in the building, but the key one is that it was kind of used for horses. So it has a large horse ramp and a courtyard and walkways, and we converted those for use by the tenants. So it's created a kind of nice intimate courtyard in the city centre, kind of sheltered from the hustle and bustle. We're very happy to receive a Saltire Housing Award. It's a prestigious award, and I think it's a good reflection of the kind of hard work and that went into the project. The client was kind of quite visionary in recovering this building. It was really a couple of winters away from falling into serious disrepair. So to have the vision to turn that into flats in the city centre was great. The tenants are really enjoying the building, and people can kind of be inspired by this type of conversion, and it will inspire similar projects in the future.
Havenfield Mews by architect Sonia Browse and contractor David Sparham Limited. Havenfield Mews is an outstanding example of what a small developer can contribute to our urban realm. 3 homes are built on the footprint of a demolished church hall. It is a tightly bound site, but this small terrace never feels constrained. Each home shares a party wall, but the street and garden faces are pushed and pulled to create secure yet welcoming thresholds to the street. The design is a rich composition of monopitches and single-storey pavilions, all tied together with a consistent use of brown brick that recalls an industrial past. Inside, no opportunity is lost to reveal the drama of the roof geometries, but at the same time, the living room and garden have a secure and sustaining relationship. Havenfield Mews is an outstanding example of what our developer community should deliver in our towns and cities on brownfield sites.
I guess Portobello is known for its sort of vibrant community, and we wanted to form new houses and a new Mews Street to be part of that community. We therefore took architectural cues from the surrounding building typologies and church, as well as looking to design a group of houses which encourage sociability with soft boundaries and model thresholds to try and bring the neighbours together. And then finally, I suppose we were looking to design housing which offered the character which you often find in more traditional properties, but with sustainable design and providing the comfort that you get in modern housing. So we designed our homes to have that character and using triple aspect and double aspect to every room. It's great. This was our first project, and so it's just phenomenal to be recognised alongside the other practices who we very much admire and well established, and their projects are great. So yeah, just thank you so much. It means a lot. Thanks.
Ganachie Lifetime Neighbourhood. Architect Anderson Bell Christie. Client the Ganachie Trust. Contractor Campion Homes. Ganachie Lifetime Neighbourhood revisits a planned village and extends it in an exemplary way that reflects contemporary challenges and opportunities our housing stock must address. These homes follow the general form and orientation of the original development by the Ganachie Trust in 1923. They share the sense of generosity and open character of the original, but are at a higher density through skillful massing of the semi-detached units. Their design anticipates householder needs at all stages of their lives through generous space planning. The development has the intention to nurture secure communities whose buildings will support their residents for the longer term. It combines this with an exemplary approach to sustainable design to provide robust and reliable internal conditions. The Ganachie Lifetime Neighbourhood will do as its name suggests and is a model for our times.
And it's a very unique estate in terms of its design and layout, emphasis on healthy living, people getting outdoors and people ventilating their house as well.
We really started off with taking a wide view of the whole Ganachie estate, and we prepared a master plan and we used a co-design process. So we worked with people that lived and worked in the area, really. the idea of an intergenerational community became quite an important one, one that was accessible to everyone and gave a sense of aging well.
We're just very delighted with how the development has turned out. The trustees are think that what Christie have delivered is exactly what we set out to do at the start. So I guess winning a Saltire award is just the icing on the cake as far as we're concerned. What we wanted to do was really deliver, the best houses we possibly could for our tenants. But we were also keen that what we do on the estate will hopefully influence, housing design and how others might think about designing houses going forward as well.
For us, winning the Saltire award is helpful in the sense that we've really gone about designing this new housing area in a way that we don't always get the chance to do with other projects. We've been able to take a contextual approach, a first principles approach, really think about the tenants and what suits them.
Hebridean House by architects Greg Penny and contractor Paul McInnes of Coastal Homes. The Hebridean House is a story of return and the regeneration of a South Uist croft. A new home weaves together in a creative and wholly convincing way contemporary design with traditional building cultures. This is a substantial building. Its walls move in and out along the elevation, the composition held in place with a concrete ring beam, giving a sense of depth as the windows sink deep within the walls. Like many rural buildings, a sense of symmetry and proportion make the Hebridean home an assured addition to the open and exposed landscape. Inside, the building realizes the limits of tradition, creating an open, fluid and inventive sequence of spaces, always honest to its function and materiality. This is a robust building, community built and completely of its place. It is an example of a fine vernacular in its truest sense.
So there was a lot of dialogue and back and forth between myself and the client. I think the kind of third party to that worth mentioning was we kind of got in touch with a local contractor quite early on in the process. With it being out in the islands, the number of contractors out there is quite limited. So there was also a kind of three-way dialogue between all of us, between the client's hopes and desires, kind of Paul's experience having worked on the island, kind of understood the climate and the kind of detailing required on the island, and then me kind of in the middle, bringing all of the ideas together to kind of produce the output. The way I kind of work is definitely kind of pulling the kind of historic and the modern together, kind of conjuring it together and producing the output that we arrived at. Winning the Saltire award feels significant with it, and just obviously I hope it leads to kind of more opportunities to build more in Scotland and explore kind of modern domestic architecture in Scotland, and just hope it kind of entices a conversation about domestic architecture and house building in Scotland, that things don't need to necessarily be kind of pastiches of the past, volume house building, for example.
A house in Arisaig, architect, Rural Design Architects Limited, client, private, contractor, Neudart Construction Company Limited. We often imagine rural architecture as the home in open countryside. Whilst found in Arisaig, this house sits on the most constrained of plots of residual ground from surrounding development. This is a project about big ideas in a modest footprint and built to a modest price. From a rectangular template, diagonal slices are cut from its massing that make for rich geometries both inside and outside. Windows then align to expansive views to the open country and the sea, so the smallest of plots has the most expansive of aspects. The building is finely crafted, with its splay angles giving a sense of drama and spaciousness to the interior. Simple, even utilitarian materials are designed and fabricated in the most sophisticated of ways. What we can learn from this exemplary project is that creative design flowers when faced with constraint, and we should thus always be ambitious for our rural homes.
It's quite an unusual project for us because many of our projects are in the open countryside. And the curious thing about this project is it's on the edge of a small housing estate in Arisaig. The little corner site, in a way, it's a bit of a pivot in the village. It's an arrival point. Combination of things kind of led us to kind of slice away the front of the house to kind of reorient it towards the views to the harbour and the boats. And it has this upstairs living room. And in a way that kind of cut almost created something a little bit boat-like about the building because it has a very clear prow. But within that as well, it's also a very modest and unassuming building, and literally what you see is what you get. And that's a very nice kind of palette of materials. There's no pretensions about the house. And I think that's partly one of the things that was really satisfying about the house. Ultimately, the recognition of receiving an award from the Saltire Society is really important. We've always submitted projects to the Saltire Award. I think it very much represents what we do as a practice. So the recognition is fantastic, not just for me in the practice, my colleagues Cara, Nick and Elena who worked on the project, but for Sonia and Felix as well. This is great. They came to us with a dream and we bought into that dream, and for all of us, this is a great moment.
Lower Tullochgrue by architects Brown and Brown and contractor Spey Building and Joinery is a distinctive home that comes from a distinctive brief to accommodate both its immediate household and a large extended family in a congenial and comfortable environment. The house is located in the Cairngorms National Park, and Lower Tullochgrue skillfully repurposes an existing cottage to provide sleeping accommodation with a new social wing that cantilevers out into the countryside. The architecture is simultaneously substantial and delicate. The deep rubble walls of the existing cottage are referenced in a dry stone plinth which carries the extension. This extension then pushes out beyond its masonry base, leaving the lie of the land undisturbed. This is an exemplary building in its exploration of design to nurture and support intergenerational living. It does this in a sequence of accessible spaces, both traditional and modern, but always social and very beautifully detailed.
Lower Tullochgrue is the extension and renovation of a historic house in the heart of Cairngorms, and the clients wanted to extend and renovate the house for use by them, but also their wider family. So there's actually kind of 4 or 5 family groups that use the house, and it's a contemporary addition to an old house that allows them to use it as one big group or an individual ones as well. Yeah, it means a lot to us to win a Saltire Award because it's one of the longest running architectural awards, and it's something that we've always respected as well.
I'm delighted to announce that the Saltire Medal goes to Bell Street Stables, a multiple occupancy development that surpasses the expectation inherent in such an amazing historic building to create a community for the now human residents.
To receive the Saltire Medal is amazing. It's one of the most prestigious awards, I think, for building social housing. It's maybe what you kind of, whilst you're working, you're kind of looking at precedents that have won it in the past, and you're aiming to meet that. I think it reflects kind of the hard work and commitment that the client, GHA, have put into the project. The whole design team and contractor, I think everyone was just consistently aware it was a special project, and they kept working hard and kind of being patient and seeing that through. So no, it's brilliant to win the medal. That's amazing news. Thank you.
I'd like now to come to our vote of thanks. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank Ginny Atkinson, who's been our chair for this round of Housing Awards in incredibly difficult times and has done this with large amounts of grace and good sense. I'd also like to thank Shona Robertson, who is Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice, Housing and Local Government, for her contribution to this evening, and also the Scottish Government and Ian Gilzean for the sustained support for the awards and their role in promoting the best and sustainable and responsive housing design in Scotland. Thanks really need to go for the unstinting work that Heather Palmer and Sarah Mason of the Saltire Society has done over the last 2 years in difficult times to make the awards happen. And without their support and input, none of this would be possible. Chris Smith, who is responsible for the videos and interviews and traveling to see the homes, has been absolutely pivotal in the awards. The insight and quality of his work is really obvious to everybody who watches these beautifully composed videos of the work of the shortlisted houses. I'd also like to thank our panel, and in particular, I'd like to thank Alistair Dixon, who stepped down as secretary this year, but over the years with the Saltire Society has been unstinting in his support, good humour and planning of the yearly awards cycle. I'd like to thank our outgoing panel members, who are Helen Lucas, Tamsin Cunningham and Stephen Tolson, again for their unstinting and outstanding contribution to the awards and judging process. Chris Simmons, who is taking over as convener of the Housing Awards, I'd like to welcome Chris, and no doubt you'll have his excellent guidance and good judgment shining through in next year's awards cycle. And finally, to all of you who either submitted work or just support great architecture in Scotland. Thank you.
On behalf of the Saltire Society, thank you for watching our virtual design awards this evening, and good night.